All right, welcome to Bet the Edge, Thursday, September 15th. Thank you to everyone watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. I'm Jay Croucher. Here's Drew Dinsick. Massive game tonight, Chiefs, Chargers, real blockbuster, which will help shape the AFC West. We're going to dive into that. We're going to just approach this game from every angle, basically, the impact on futures markets. We'll talk about the line, total, and some props. Drew, just overarching thoughts. Where are you at right now?
Excited for this game. I think it's pretty obvious why. These are two of the top three teams in the NFL, two of the top three teams in the AFC West, and two of the top two teams. Two of the top two teams in the AFC West, and really, I think a lot of the fabric of the futures market is going to be shaped by what happens at least early in the season. So it's a must pay attention. But even as excited as I am for this game, kind of annoyed it's on a Thursday. I wouldn't mind seeing these two teams have a full week to kind of game plan for each other. I think my expectation is you're probably going to, both of these coaching staffs are relatively, they're smart folks. They've at least, especially on the Kansas City side, they've found a ton of success in the NFL over the balance of their careers. And you have an up and coming crew in LA. And I think they probably put together game plans for this game in the preseason. They probably practiced them a lot before week one. And I doubt that they're going to change much in what is a very short week. And that tends to be what we see for these Thursday night games. Not a lot of opportunity for coaching staffs to make tweaks, to make changes. You pretty much have to think about your game plan the week ahead of time because you just don't have enough practice time to install, kind of unique wrinkles. So, I think in general, this is going to be a hugely important game, but I do wish we had had this one on a Sunday nighter instead of a Thursday.
Yeah, I'm with you. And it's a shame that Keenan Allen is out. The JC Jackson is limited, though it's starting to look like he will play. I mean, I think if both of those guys are in, we're looking at a line that's more like 3, realistically. And then the total right now is 54-2, which might be a little bit suppressed by Keenan Allen being out. And we'll jump into that a little bit later. But, it's the AFC West, the famous most difficult division in football, even though maybe it doesn't look as good after how the Broncos and the Raiders played on Sunday and Monday. But right now we're looking at the Chiefs at plus 120. They are the favorites. The Chargers at plus 165. These were the two favorites going into the season naturally, and they both shortened a little bit after the losses for the Broncos and the Raiders. How are you attacking this division market, and what do you think it might look like after tonight?
Okay, so if you're going to make a bet on this division market, I think you need to look a little bit further into the future. And then specifically if you are bullish about the Chargers and their chances tonight. I think, personally at 4.5 at 4, I thought Chargers were a reasonable play. I think this is going to be more of a coin flip type game. But really after this game for the Chargers, they have it very, very soft schedule for the next 2 months. Not a lot of, head to heads where you feel like they're going to be, favored by less than a field goal even. And so this is a super, super high leverage game, not just for the Chargers to win the AFC West, but to get the 1 seed potentially. And so I think if this is train leaving the station time for anything bullish about the Chargers to do, for the early half of the season. If you, you may ultimately want to trade out of that position, but I think you can make a case that the Chargers are as good as advertised coming into the season, if not maybe a little bit better than people expected on the defensive side of the ball. Most of the questions that still exist about this team are what's going on with the offensive scheming and sequencing. And that could improve as the season goes on for all we know. So I think, pretty clearly at plus 165, if the Chargers win this game, I would expect them to move to about minus 150. And I don't think you're going to see any kind of change in that kind of favorite status between now and the next time these two teams play each other, which isn't until much deeper in the season. On the flip side, Kansas City is already favored. I don't see a ton of value getting involved in plus 120. They have a lot more sort of speed bumps in the early part of the season, tougher tests. And so I think, realistically, you probably have to, there's going to be a better time to buy low on the Chiefs than right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. You think the Chargers would be that heavily favored if they win tonight. I still think that Patrick Mahomes just puts a weight on this divisional market with the odds as he has for the past 5 years. I think that the Chargers, you still might be able to get a price on them closer to even money, but we'll see, because the market definitely heavily rates the Chargers. What I would look at in this market overall is the schedule, which, you mentioned, where, both of these teams, because they play in the same division, obviously they're playing the AFC West. Their extra games are also then at the AFC South and the NFC West. But the 3 extra games beyond that, that's what should shape this division market, where Kansas City, the 3 teams that they play that the Chargers do not, like, look at this schedule: Buffalo, at Cincinnati, at Tampa Bay. That's as bad as it gets. The Chargers, meanwhile, their 3 extra games at Jacoby Brissett in week 5. Deshaun Watson's not going to be back by then, obviously. At Atlanta, home to Miami. So those 3 Kansas City games, that's like 1.5 expected wins, whereas the Chargers are looking at like 2.1, 2.2. So if you think that these teams are dead even, which I think is a reasonable enough hypothesis, then the Chargers are basically just gifted more than half a win by virtue of their schedule. So, like, if I was attacking this market right now, honestly, what I'd be hoping for is that the Chargers lose tonight and then drift out beyond, out to maybe like plus 240, plus 250. And then I would look at it then, because I don't think that with division markets, schedule is the thing that doesn't get incorporated enough into prices. Now, we will definitely be talking.
2 of those games you mentioned happen before the Chiefs get to their bye. So those are early season hiccups potentially on top of that, and that definitely matters.
Yep, 100%. Okay, AFC title market. So the Bills are the favorites. They're plus 300. Then it's these 2 teams next. The Chiefs are plus 400, the Chargers plus 750, and then you get into the AFC North teams, the Ravens and the Bengals at plus 800, plus 1400. And then the Broncos, same price as the Bengals. Is there anything you're looking at this market right now, and how might that change after tonight?
Well, again, I do see this as a big leverage game for that Chargers price at 750. I think you're going to see flip-flop in the Chiefs Chargers prices if the Chargers take this one. And I think realistically, the Bills have to stay favorite for probably the duration of the season, just because the AFC East looks that much more favorable compared to, these teams. Again, this is game 1 of 2 between these 2, and a split is the most likely outcome. And the Bills only have to play the Chiefs once, don't have to play the Chargers at all. And so, you have a lot of positives there for the Bills being at the top of that market. If I was going to take a long shot right now, the fact that the Bengals lost week 1 but are still healthy, I think 14-1 is a decent buy shot on them. But I've actually allocated most of my Bengals optimism into the AFC North market.
Yep, I agree with that. There shouldn't be that disparity between the Ravens and the Bengals, plus 800 to plus 1400. Those teams should be much more tightly bunched together. If I was going to bet on either the Chiefs or the Chargers at their current prices, I would bet on the Chargers at plus 750, just because of the scope for that price to change. Like you said, if the Chiefs win tonight, that plus 400 isn't going to get much shorter. If the Chargers win tonight, like you said, that price might actually flip. And I think that points to, the overarching theme about this game, which is there's a lot more at stake for Kansas City tonight, I feel like, because they're the 4-point favorites. They're the team that's healthier, and they're the team that is, expected to win. And if they lose, then it starts to reshape, I think, the outlook of their entire season, because they have such a more difficult schedule. And then the Chargers will be favorite for the division, in which case the Chiefs might be looking at a lot of road games in the playoffs. Okay, Drew. If you haven't heard, Matthew Berry has a new show on NBC, Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry. He's back with NBC and Roto World and doing what he does best, rolling out his love-hate list, waiver wire pickups, who to start and sit. I am the co-host of that show. I'm not today. Julie Stewart-Binks, who is phenomenal. She will be co-hosting with Matthew. We also have a Sunday show, Fantasy Football pregame, on Sundays leading up to kickoff, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. The weekday show is 12 p.m. Eastern on Peacock. Plenty of betting information on this show as well. Matthew's getting right into it, texting me already some look-ahead props for Sunday night. He's really diving into the betting, which we like to see. So check out the show on Peacock on weekdays and on Sunday. And also listen to the show in podcast form wherever you download and subscribe to your podcasts. Now, MVP market. We've got two of the top three favorites playing each other tonight. Now, my old friends at PointsBet, they have Patrick Mahomes at plus 450 and the favorite. It's good to see that I've taught them well, having Mahomes as the favorite. He's narrowly in front of Josh Allen, your man, at plus 500, and then Justin Herbert at plus 700. Now, the thing with this market is that Mahomes and Herbert, in their two matchups and in this division, like one is going to eliminate the other, likely in the head-to-head matchup. So your optimism about the Chiefs and the Chargers naturally has to lend into this market. Is there anyone right now in the market that you think is worth a bet?
I am going to stay pat on my Josh Allen wire to wire here. Okay. I'm glad, congratulations that you cooked the books. You called in some favors over at PointsBet, so you can talk about Mahomes, the favorite. But really and truly, it's games like this that I think ultimately create separation between Allen and Mahomes. This is a really, really, really tough matchup for Mahomes. He is going up against an absolutely elite pass rush and pass defense combination that honestly makes the Chiefs' best chance at a win to take the ball out of his hands. And that sounds crazy because literally if you have your quarterback as Pat Mahomes, you should want the ball in his hand on every single play. But I think, truly the kind of the optimal way to attack, at least what we understand this current Chargers roster to be, is to go at guys like Murray, not guys like Derwin James. And so, I think Mahomes probably live to throw a pick in this game. And, if it ends up being a high leverage sort of play, fourth quarter pick, end zone pick, or kind of determined narratively after this game to be the reason that the Chiefs lose, then he's gonna, you're gonna see a lot of equity slip. And then ultimately, do I think the Chargers can sustain excellence and get the 1 seed? I have a ton of questions about how they're going to look later this season when they're going up against some better run teams. But for that reason, I would expect that even if the Chargers can somehow beat the Chiefs head to head twice and win the AFC West, I still would favor Buffalo to be the 1 seed. And for those reasons, I think it's going to be really tough for the voting block to look past Josh Allen at the end of the day. I do not know what Mahomes can do at this point to impress people so much that they continue to bet him beyond this plus 450 price. What has to happen for him to continue to move down in your mind?
Well, I mean, he just has to get the 1 seed most likely, and he absolutely has to win the division. And to your point, if you're making the case for Josh Allen, it's that Josh Allen doesn't have Justin Herbert in his division. He's got Tua Tagovailoa and Joe Flacco and Mac Jones, so he's got a much easier path to the 1 seed. At the same time, I think that Mahomes and Herbert, they will get a boost whoever wins the AFC West, because it is a more difficult division. So if you're looking at the Bills as a 1 seed, the Chiefs as a 2 seed, they have similar records, and Mahomes has a better touchdown to interception ratio, which is really important in this award, than Allen. Then at that point, I think that Mahomes, he will get credit for being able to do that without having Tyreek Hill. Gives him a bit of a narrative boost. The fact that Hill isn't there and that Mahomes is going to be spreading the ball around to Juju and Mecole Hardman and MVS and these types of players. Just overall in this market, I do think that Mahomes, Allen, and Herbert are a clear tier 1. I think that Tom Brady, Lamar Jackson is the correct tier 2. And then outside of that, when you're looking at long shots like Jalen Hurts and Kirk Cousins, who, maybe they'll get involved, but I wouldn't think so. But I wouldn't be betting Mahomes at plus 450. But the other thing I'll say in this market is that in MVP, you're allowed 1 disaster. You get 1.
Yeah, you are.
Aaron Rodgers, 38-3 week 1. Pretty handy that it happened for him in week 1. And by week 18, no one really remembered that game against New Orleans. But you do get 1 disaster. Lamar Jackson in his MVP season got trucked by Mahomes, I want to say in like week 3. And then no one remembers by week 18. But you don't get 2 disasters. That's when your case starts to erode. So if Mahomes or Herbert lose tonight, they're not done. They're just 1 step closer to being done. Are there any long shots on the board that you really like that you think maybe could surprise?
I really don't think so. And here's actually why. Here's why. You mentioned Hertz is like in that 15-1 range, and
It's not big enough.
it's not big. It's not big enough. And also, like, the likelihood that the Eagles get the 1 seed, I think, is very real now. I mean, considering what is happening with Chicago, with Dallas, and in general, how soft and just in general, their schedule is quite easy. I think Philly potentially getting the 1 seed and people still being like, it was a team effort. Not really giving Hertz consideration. That seems how that goes, which means he's basically going to screen out any NFC quarterback because he's going to be sitting in the 1 seed, right? Like, you couldn't even get past Jalen Hurts. He's not an MVP. And so, like, ultimately this award being decided between the elite AFC quarterbacks feels very, very, very real. Which, to that point, if you're going to put together a portfolio and you're going to, just keep an eye on this market and get best price available on Mahomes, Allen, and Herbert over the balance of the season, that seems like a winning strategy in my mind.
I like that. And there is absolutely, if you like the Eagles and think they can get the 1 seed, which I agree is in play, I would make them second favorite for the 1 seed behind Tampa, and it's pretty close there. But you do not bet Jalen Hurts to win MVP at plus 1,600 or even at 25-1. Go bet Nick Sirianni to win Coach of the Year at plus 1,500. That is definitely the look, because he is going to get credit because Hurts isn't viewed as an Allen Mahomes, Herbert level quarterback. Nick Sirianni, I think, is definitely the look. Just vis-a-vis Hurts, and just in general, he would be my bet in that market. Okay, so just a reminder, if you don't have the NBC Sports Predictor app, go download it now. Contests are free and easy to play, and you have a shot to win thousands this weekend by predicting what will happen in college football, Major League Baseball, on the NASCAR circuit, and in the Premier League. There is also $100,000 up for grabs by guessing the outcome between the Bears and the Packers in our Sunday Night 7 contest. Bears-Packers, which we broke down yesterday, the big game on NBC. All right, before we go, let's break down the big markets tonight. Side, total, player props. The line right now is sitting at -4. The over-under was 54.5. It's starting to trickle down to some places at 54 flat, which, to your credit, you predicted. You thought this might be a lower scoring game than the market anticipated. Anything in the line or total, Drew, that you see value in?
So my fare coming into this, and this is kind of going back to my preseason ratings. I would have made Chiefs a soft 3, and then the loss of Keenan Allen has really cooled my enthusiasm of taking the Chargers at a 4 right now. I still think that the Chargers are very live in this game. This is going to be the type of game where I would expect them to pull out a lot of tricks, be more as aggressive as possible. And to that degree, if you're going to get involved with the Chargers, I would steer money line at the current price as opposed to just taking the points. But that said, I do think there is a meaningful edge to this under. My fair total on this one is 51. You're getting a little bit of an inflated total here. I'm bullish here. I'll give you some field goal edge, and there are a lot of reasons why. I think both of these defenses are better than the market is pricing. I think both of these offenses still have some questions to answer, and if you're using I think the market is using too much of the signal they got from Kansas City against Arizona in this handicap, and I don't believe that is telling you a fair story. Arizona's defense was missing all kinds of important pieces, on top of the fact that they ran a blitz-heavy package, which is playing into the strength of Mahomes, and so they basically gave the Chiefs a glorified walkthrough in Week 1. And if you are kind of concluding from that, oh, yep, no Tyreek, no problem, everything is just as good as it's always been for this team, I think you're reading a little bit too much into that. This is going to be a hard-fought game. Los Angeles defense matches up perfectly with what the Chiefs' strengths are, so I think the fact that this is as high a total as it is a pretty solid look, on top of the fact that it's a short week, on top of the fact that there's a ton of injuries in this handicap here, and guys are already banged up. So give me under 54 is my favorite look in this game.
Yep, I completely agree with that. And I think you touched on it, where the Arizona performance is inflating the perception of the Chiefs offense a little bit. That might be the worst pass defense in the entire league in Arizona. They don't have any cornerbacks, and that doesn't really go too well against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. I agree that, I do think that there is value in the under as well, because this Chargers team is not particularly optimized on offense. They don't let Justin Herbert air it out in terms of pass attempts or average depth of target. They ran the ball 31 times against the Raiders for 2.5 yards per carry. If they're going to pull that again, that is going to deflate the total. And I think this Chargers defense, to me, this is the most interesting unit tonight, is can this Chargers defense be literally just the best in the league, the best defense in the league? Because they have a starting four to build from on that defense in the two pass rushers, Mack and Bosa, and then Derwin James, who might be the best safety in the league, and JC Jackson, who is arguably a top 3 cornerback in the league. That is the best top 4 of any defense that you can start from. So I think that you add all of that up, and I think that the under is a good look here. Any props? Any props that you like from? You're going to see some big numbers because of the huge total. Herbert 280.5, Mahomes 295.5 passing yards. Then you're looking at guys like Eckler and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, both around the 50.5 rushing yards mark. Anyone stand out to you?
I am doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on my underlook here, and it's because of the reasons you said. If you are doing unit rankings as part of your bottoms up or top down approach to coming up with a handicap, you have to have the Chargers at 1 or 2 right now in pass defense. And you will have some enormous numbers out there for some of these receiving totals for what what we're expecting from Mahomes. I like reception yardage unders on a number of the Chiefs wide receivers. Hardman's at the top of the list, but Schuster I think is an underplay as well. His number has gotten inflated, to a degree that I think is unrealistic. And
60.5 right now. Last week it was 46.5 against the Cardinals.
Ridiculous.
So that's a massive adjustment.
Ridiculous. So under on wide receivers for your receiving yards is my look and against the Chiefs. And I like Mahomes to throw an interception, in this game.
I like that. Okay, well, my prop, and it's this is what life is all about, betting Jerick McKinnon to go over 15.5 receiving yards on a Thursday night. And the reason for this is that I think the people are looking a little bit too much into Clyde Edwards-Helaire's performance against the Cardinals. He was absurdly efficient. He's not going to replicate that. And then you look at Isaiah Pacheco, really trendy name in the preseason, who led in carries and rushing yards. That was just because he was racking it up in garbage time. In the competitive portion of that game between the Chiefs and the Cardinals, Jerick McKinnon was getting half of the running back snaps. So I think that's instructive. Even though the Chargers, they do defend running backs well in the pass game, I think that there will be the opportunity for McKinnon to go over 15.5 receiving yards. Right. Any last thoughts on this game, Drew?
Yeah, I got to ask you, Jay. Should I add DeAndre Carter to my fantasy team? Is he going to have a big night?
Don't like DeAndre Carter tonight. I think he's being inflated as well by what he did against the Raiders. I like Josh Palmer, who balls out every time that one of Keenan Allen or Mike Williams are out.
It's a great call.
Big fantasy guy.
Palmer night. Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I like over 3.5 receptions for Josh Palmer. That number is starting to get hit, but you might still be able to get a price there. I think that he will be wide receiver 2 tonight behind Mike Williams. Now, just lastly, we talked about 2 of our favorite bets yesterday, which for me, Bucks minus 2.5, Dolphins plus 3.5 for you. We're both aligned on those. And then adding in Jerick McKinnon, the great Jerick McKinnon, over 15.5 receiving yards. Our friends at PointsBet have combined that into a 3-leg parlay. They've boosted it from plus 565 to plus 700. So you can go bet on that at PointsBet. So that's it for us, Drew. Massive game tonight. Don't forget to check out NBCSportsEdge.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks to everyone watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to subscribe and rate us. Drew and I are both out tomorrow, but we will have a show with Vaughn and Brad Thomas. And then Drew and I will be back on Monday next week. Good luck with your wagers. See you soon.